reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Glory to you, O Lord. On one occasion, when Jesus was going to the house of a leader of the Pharisees to eat a meal on the Sabbath, they were watching him closely. When Jesus noticed how the guests chose the places of honor, he told them a parable. When you are invited by someone to a wedding banquet, do not sit down at the place of honor, in case someone more distinguished than you has been invited by your host. And the host who invited both of you may come and say to you, give this person your place. And then in disgrace you would start to take the lowest place. But when you are invited, go and sit down at the lowest place, so that when your host comes, he may say to you, friend, move up higher. Then you will be honored in the presence of all who sit at the table with you. For all who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. The Gospel of the Lord. I've been invited to so many gatherings at a parishioner's house, and of course there will always be a meal, right? And they would always, out of their kindness, they would always reserve a special place for the priest to sit on. And for me, it's like there's something in me that would cringe, right? Like, it's like I really don't like to sit on those seats because if that is special, then other seats are non-special, right? And for me, it's like, I don't want to be, thinking that I'm more special than others, and because I know, I could easily fall into pride that I'm more special than others. And this happens not just in meals, right? In meetings, if there's like a executive meeting for like a corporate, you see the CEO there sitting in the middle, and then his right-hand man on the right, and then his left-hand person on the left. And so there's like a seating arrangement there for those who are special and non-special. You could see that also maybe, when a president would give a State of the Union address. All those who are sitting in front are the special, and the non-special sit behind. You see that in concerts, right? In conferences, all the seats in front are for the special guests. Those who are in the back are for the non-special. And that's why for me, I would cringe. I would cringe when hosts would ask me to sit on the special place on the meal. And in our gospel today, Jesus was talking about that, right? It says there, when you are invited, go and sit down at the lowest place, so that when your host comes, he may say to you, friend, move up higher. Then you will be honored in the presence of all who sit at a table with you. Pride, the Lord doesn't want us to fall into pride, because the pride is the first of all the capital sin. Okay? And in 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 7, it says, God opposes the proud but gives grace to the humble. Okay, and it reminds me also of one of the Beatitudes. It says, blessed are the poor in spirit, for they shall have God, right? And what's being in a poor in spirit? Poor in the spirit is not, the Lord is not stressing about physical poverty. Of course, the Lord wants us to, but I think more about spiritual poverty, that we are weak, that we are poor, that we are powerless, that you see the poor in society, they need to depend more on God, because they couldn't rely on the government, they couldn't rely on others. They need to rely on God. For the poor, for the physical poor, And it also has to do with us. The Lord is stressing here about spiritual poverty. Are we poor enough? Are we weak enough to really turn to the Lord? Because when we are weak, then we are strong when we turn to the Lord. So when we are poor, that when we become rich in the Lord. And that's what the Lord is stressing here, that we need to be humble in heart. And who's the greatest example of that? Who's the greatest example of that? Mary. That's why I chose today the votive Mass, Our Lady, the handmaid of the Lord. He says that, right? In the Magnificat. In the Magnificat, he calls herself the handmaid, the servant of the Lord. The least in society. She considers herself that. And because of that, what happened there is that when she goes to heaven, it says there, she who saw herself as God's lowly handmaid was raised up by God to reign as queen in glory in the presence of his Son. He was raised as queen of heaven and earth because of her lowliness. What really excites me is that when I go to heaven, I will see those who will be raised up by Jesus to sit up on a higher place. Those who are on this earth are really practicing the virtue of humility. Here at St. Mary's, I see a lot who are very humble. They're okay not be on the limelight. Sometimes it's just the priests, the deacons, the leaders who are on the limelight. But there are others who are just serving out of great humility, doing small things for this church, but out of great love. And I'm just so excited when I go to heaven, I will see these parishioners, these volunteers who will be raised up on the seat in heaven, higher than the priests, higher than the deacons, higher than the religious, those who are on the limelight on this earth. Because it is the humble that the Lord will raise up in the wedding feast in heaven. Come. And that's an encouragement for all of us. Let's not go after the respect, the recognition, the honor that we would get here on earth. Because if we're going for that, our motives will be mixed as we serve the Lord. It could be for our own good, right? It should be all for the glory of God and for the salvation of souls. That's all. So that when we go to heaven, it's what the Lord will tell us here. Okay? He says, friend, move up higher. Then you will be honored in the presence of all who sit at a table with you.